We've talked about the parts of speech. Now we're moving on to pronouns. Let's take a look at what we've got and go through this presentation, and hopefully you're going to understand these so much better.
He found a kangaroo that followed him home, and now it is his. You see, he, him, and his are pronouns replacing the noun. Rufus, Xavier, sarsaparilla, a very proper noun, and it is a pronoun replacing the noun. Kangaroo. How common. Now Rufus has a sister named Rafaela, Gabriella, Sarsaparilla. If she found a kangaroo, I'd say to you, she found a kangaroo that followed her home, and now it is hers. But I can't say that, because she found an oddball that fell in love with her, and they're so happy. And my name's Albert Andrea Samadilla, no relation to the sarsaparillas. Because of pronouns I can say, I wish she would find a rhinoceros for me, and we'd be happy. You see, a pronoun was made to take the place of a noun. Cause saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down. Now I can tell you Rafaela, Gabriella, and Rufus, Xavier, sarsaparilla, and Albert Andreas Armadillo found an aardvark, a kangaroo, and a rhinoceros. And now that aardvark and that kangaroo and that rhinoceros belong respectively to Rafaela, Gabriella, sarsaparilla, and Rufus, Xavier, sarsaparilla, and Albert Andreas Armadillo. Because of pronouns, I can say in this way, we found them and they found us, and now they are ours, and we're so happy. Thank you, pronouns. You see, a pronoun was made to take the place of a noun. Cause saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down. Sometimes when we take them all on the bus, people really raise a fuss. They start shouting out loud pronouns at us like, who brought that rhinoceros on this bus? What made that horrible noise? And which one of them getting off first? Who, what, and which have special pronouns that can ask a question in a sense where you do not know the name of the noun. But I know I have mine and she has hers. He has his and you have yours. They love us and we love them. What's ours is theirs. That's how it is with friends and pronouns. You are really friends, yeah. Cause saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down.
And that was my next point. Why do we use pronouns? Pronouns take the place of nouns to shorten sentences and make them more readable. As you can see from that cute little Schoolhouse Rock video, yes, they serve a purpose. And pronouns are really pretty simple, but let's just take a look at what we've got. We have 6 kinds of pronouns: personal, indefinite, possessive, reflexive, relative, and demonstrative. Okay, as we go through, let's look first at personal pronouns. Because nouns refer to specific places, persons, places, or things, personal pronouns also refer to these, and they have characteristics called number, person, and case. And we have to look at those because that matters. For instance, if a number refers to whether a pronoun is singular, such as him or her, or plural, such as them. John Kennedy had severe back trouble. However, he did swim sometimes or sail with friends. If we change this sentence, John Kennedy becomes he or him. He had severe back trouble. However, he did sometimes swim or sail with, we could change friends to them. So that's an example. Pretty easy because I'm sure you probably already know that. But we do have 2 forms of pronouns. We have subjective and objective. And it should be simple because subjective is used with subject, objective, should not have an S there, is used with objects. Seems simple. In order for you to know this, you have to memorize this chart. You probably already have. Okay, and just like when we're conjugating with another language, we have to make sure we know our pronoun, if it's first person, second person, if it's masculine or feminine. So let's look at these. We have I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. You know that these are singular. We know that first person is I, you is second person, and he, she, it, third person. We know that we and you are plural. First person, second person, third person. We know this, but this is a chart to help you make sure that you know these things. And we also have masculine and feminine, meaning do we use them with male or female? It is obviously object, thing, animal. Now, I know sometimes we do get confused and we use they. I'm going to show you some errors that we have using they with first person and singular, but we really have to watch that because on the ACT, that's one of the big errors. But we'll get there. I'll show you some of those. Okay, now that you've seen how the subject pronouns work, let's see the complementing object pronouns. So you could literally just draw a line. I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it, we, us, they, them. Super easy. You understand this. Done it before, no big deal. When we go on to indefinite pronouns, these are a little less clear, and they're a little less clear because while personal pronouns refer to specific persons, places, or things, indefinite pronouns refer to general persons, places, or things. Indefinite pronouns are all third person. They can be subjects or objects in a sentence, but they're always third person. So let's look at these. We have all of these. We have singular and we have plural. So you will be memorizing these charts. Anyone, no one, someone, everyone. Anybody, nobody, somebody, everybody. Anything, nothing, something, everything. Either, another, each, one, any. Now, those are all indefinite, singular, and like I said, third person. These indefinites are always going to be plural, both, few, many, several. Again, you're going to memorize these because you have to keep that in your mind. You're going to know these. Both, if you're talking about both of something, you know that's plural. Few, you know that's plural. Many, you know that's plural. What can be a little more confusing is if you're looking at these, like anything or nothing. So that's why we want to make sure that we memorize them and know that they are singular. Many indefinite pronouns seem to refer to groups. Now, this is a tricky part. Let's say we're talking about a collective, like a crowd. And sometimes they're mistakenly treated as plurals. Everybody overfilled their backpack. However, when we look at any indefinite pronoun that ends in one or body or thing, let's go back. Everybody overfilled their backpack. Everybody is singular. So how would we change that? Everybody overfilled his or her backpack. Now, using his or her interchangeably used to be common. Everybody overfilled his or her backpack. Sometimes people want to fix that now by saying everybody overfilled their backpack. No, that's totally incorrect. I would rather you go to his or her backpack because that is grammatically correct. Everybody overfilled his or her backpack. Unless you know the gender that it was a boys' school. Everybody overfilled his backpack. You could do that. But when you're not sure, his or her is a standard. The following indefinite pronouns are usually singular. If one of these words is an antecedent in a sentence, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. An antecedent is the word that refers to the pronoun. We must write, does anyone know, rather than do anyone know. And trust your ear. Would you say, does anyone know, or would you say, do anyone know? None of us would say, do anyone know, because that doesn't sound right. Would we say each of them knows rather than each of them know? And someone left her cell phone rather than someone left their cell phone. So it's logical if we just think about it. If you've got questions, write it down so you can ask. A few indefinite pronouns that can be either singular or plural depending on the context. We've got most, any, all, none, some, and neither. Some of you may call it neither. That's fine. I just usually say either or neither. Next, we have possessive pronouns. These should be the easiest pronouns because they show ownership, but sometimes they're not easy. Julie's new pen is missing from her desk. Okay. These are the possessive pronouns: my, our, your, his, her, its, their, whose. Mine, ours, yours, his, hers, theirs. This could be my new pen or her new pen, depending on who's talking in the sentence. But let me draw your attention to this: its. Sometimes we want to put an apostrophe for possession if we say Julie's pen up here, right? So sometimes we want to use its and put an apostrophe. That's not right. Okay, we have to remember that in that case with its, we have its, an apostrophe also joins words. So its, it apostrophe s, is short for it is. So its, none of the possessive pronouns, remember this, none of the possessive pronouns have apostrophes. Okay, only possessive nouns have apostrophes. No possessive pronouns have apostrophes. Its is a possessive pronoun, so it won't have an apostrophe. You can remember that. If you're on the test and you're saying, I can't remember that, I know it shows possession, but do I put an apostrophe? It's a pronoun. Pronouns never have apostrophes. Thank you, Miss Miller. Reflexive pronouns are a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. People use these to make emphasis on themselves. Reflexive pronouns add emphasis. They always follow a noun or personal pronoun. They do not appear alone in a sentence. Jamie herself changed the tire. I really feel like these are redundant. I hate to see reflexive pronouns in writing, but they do have a place. She herself changed the tire. The meaning is that she and no one else changed the tire, and the emphasis is on the independence of her action. That's when you would use that particular form of a pronoun, reflexive, if the focus is more on the action than on the person. Okay, we have to be careful about how we use these. We don't want to say things like Julie herself is reading a book. There's not really emphasis on that action. I mean, you can, if you said Julie herself is reading the most important book in the world, maybe you could do that. But obviously, I myself would be reading a book. I think it's redundant. I don't like to see them in writing, but you need to know how to use them. Now, along with this, there's a problem. Reflexive pronouns are never subjects to the sentence. We would never say Haley and myself are taking the class together. We would say Haley and I are taking the class together. Okay, we'd want to add that. And there is no their selves or their self. And I've got a little head here because I hate to see that. We don't say their self or their selves. They wax the car themselves at home, not their selves. There is no his self. Jesse taught himself French. He didn't teach his self. So when you see these words, they should be uncomfortable to you. I hope they're as uncomfortable to you as they are to me, because I don't like them. I don't like them at all. And we don't need to be using those. Okay, let's go on. Relative pronouns. I know these already sound confusing because we have who, whoever, whom, whomever, but they're really not. And let me show you some basic rules. When we are using relative pronouns, just follow these basic rules. Who is always going to be a subject pronoun. It's the subject of the sentence. Who was at the door? It's going to be in the front of the sentence. By the same token, whoever is a form of who. It's going to be the front of the sentence. Whom is an object pronoun. either an object of the sentence, object of a pronoun. It can never, ever, ever, ever be the subject of the sentence. It can be a direct or indirect object because it's an object, or it can be the object of a preposition because it's an object. But it can never be the subject because it's an object. Okay, got it? So, what happens when you have this in the front of a sentence and it confuses you? Well, it happens. So, how do I figure out if it's a subject or not? It comes from practice, and it comes from changing that sentence around. So, we would change the question, because usually it's going to be a question, to a statement. You did visit who or whom last summer. This restores the natural word order. And the natural word order is subject, verb, direct object. In the place of who or whom, substitute personal pronouns he and him. You did visit he last summer. You did visit him last summer. Okay, so if it makes sense for you to have him in that sentence, which it's going to be for whom, because him is an object form too, you keep the same forms. Y'all, let me say that again. If it makes sense for you to have the word him, because it's an object form, then you're going to use whom because it's also object form. Got it? You're going to keep the same form. If he, a subject pronoun, is right, then the right choice for the original question would be who, because he, just like who, is a subject pronoun. If him, an object pronoun, is correct, it's an object pronoun. So based on step 3 above, correctly frame the sentence. Whom did you visit last summer? How would we change that around? Whom did you visit last summer? Did you visit he last summer, or did you visit him last summer? It would be, did you visit him? So whom did you visit last summer is correct, but whom is still going to be, that's right, it's going to be a object, not a subject. Okay, moving on to demonstrative pronouns. They indicate specific nouns, and these are super easy pronouns. Let me move myself over for just a minute. Demonstrative. They're basically pointing out something specific. These cookies are my favorite. Which cookies? These cookies. What about those cookies? Well, those cookies could be your favorite too because it's a demonstrative noun. That brown bear is mine. What about this blue bear? It could be one too because these are your 4 demonstrative pronouns. They're going to indicate specific information. So pronouns aren't difficult at all if you understand their jobs. Every part of speech has a job to do, and you must know what the job is and if the part of speech is doing it correctly. Is it an object form? Is it a subject form? That's what you have to know. So actually consider yourself as providing a performance appraisal on the job of these pronouns rather than doing grammar. And if you're looking at a specific thing, like if you're looking at, pronouns, you know the different kinds of pronouns. Are they doing the job they're supposed to do? And the only really challenging part is the who, whom kind of dilemma that we run into. But by changing the sentence back to the original structure, subject, verb, object, that's going to help you so much. And I think that will really help you understand as we move forward a lot of other things about grammar, because you're going to recognize, okay, well, that I understand what that part of speech is supposed to be doing. I've got it. In order to do this, however, you must memorize these pronouns and retain them. You're going to have to learn the chart for the next quiz. And do you have to learn all of them? Yes. Yes, you do. You need to know the object prepositions and the subject prepositions. You need to know the indefinite pronouns that are singular, and you need to know the indefinite pronouns that are plural. You need to know the few indefinite pronouns that can be singular or plural. You need to know what's possessive. You need to know the reflexive pronouns. And these are simple because they're just yourselves, itself, herself. You need to know the demonstrative ones. These are easy. So you shouldn't have any trouble on this. It's just a matter of memorizing. And memorizing is important and retaining is important. So we have some activities we're going to be doing on this. And then next we're going to move on to verbs, which might be a little more challenging. but I think that this is really going to help. So if you have questions, write them down and let me know. Don't be afraid to ask. And remember, start memorizing your pronouns.